Does anyone remember those choose-your-own-adventure books? I absolutely loved them as a kid. You would read through some sort of epic quest, making choices for the protagonist until you reached one of several endings. The interactivity and being able to directly influence the narrative was so cool to a younger me. And I think that's why I'm so fond of interactive movie-like games today. There's multiple companies who make these sorts of games, such as Telltale and Quantic Dream. But today, we're going to be discussing one studio in particular, Supermassive Games. Supermassive Games is well known for these sorts of games, most notably with Until Dawn, which just received a remaster a few weeks ago. Since then, they've published several more of these interactive horror games, such as the Dark Pictures anthology, and a couple of standalone titles like The Quarry and The Casting of Frank Stone. I recently put out a poll asking which of their games you guys wanted me to discuss, and Until Dawn was the winner. I had originally planned to do a video over just Until Dawn, possibly about the remake, but then I saw that it was $60, and I caught the plague this month, so I've decided to switch gears a little. But don't worry, we will still talk about Until Dawn, because I'm going to rank the plot twists in each of Supermassive's interactive horror games. But before we get into the list, I need to lay down some ground rules. Firstly, I am only going to be judging what I deem to be the biggest twist or reveal of the game. Some of these games do have multiple plot points that you could classify as twists, but unless the big twist directly links into them, I'm not really going to go over them or include them in my ranking. Second, this is not a ranking of the games themselves. It's just how interesting and fitting I think the twist is, and how well it is executed within the context of the game. I try to be as objective as possible when making lists like this, but, obviously, like all forms of art, opinions on writing can be subjective, and if you have an argument in favor of or against some of these twists, let me know in the comments. I love hearing what people have to say about these things. And lastly, of course, massive spoilers for every game listed on screen. Number 7. It was all in Anthony's head. Little Hope. Okay, look. I understand what they were trying to do here. Anthony's entire family died years ago in the house fire, and after the bus crash gives him a head injury, his guilt manifests into hallucinations of other people there with him that represent his dead family members. I can see what the intention was with this, to have Anthony/Andrew come to terms with what happened through the events of the game. The problem with this twist for me is that this is a game. You directly make these choices and you're under the impression that they matter. In fact, most of the Dark Picture anthology games usually open with this kind of message. So, when this twist is revealed and it's made clear that almost none of the game's events were real, it makes it feel like your choices didn't matter. Yes, you could argue that they mattered to Anthony, but it feels cheap and like the rug was torn out from under you, especially if you actually liked these other characters aside from him. I think if this was a movie or a short TV show, it would have worked at least a little better, because the viewer is not able to directly make choices and isn't under the false pretense that they matter or have a hand in what's actually happening in the events of the story. But as is, yeah, I didn't like this one at all, and it really felt like the equivalent of the "it was all a dream" trope that everybody hates. And for good reason. Number 6. The Identity of Dumet, The Devil in Me. I just can't put this one any higher because in my eyes, it hardly even feels like a twist. Oh, the killer is a former FBI agent turned serial killer that we've never met and never actually talked to. It's a very straightforward reveal compared to the rest of them on this list, and while that in and of itself isn't a bad thing, it doesn't really add anything to the story, and in fact comes off as pretty underwhelming considering, again, he's not really a present character. I can't even get into him that much as a fun villain because of that. That's kind of all I have to say about it. This is probably going to be the shortest segment because this twist is the least twist of a twist on this list of a list. Gesundheit. Number 5. There are multiple dimensions being traveled across. The casting of Frank Stone. Moving from the most straightforward twist to the most insane one, we have the casting of Frank Stone. This story features characters traveling across dimensions and time, mainly between 2024 and 1980. This is revealed fairly early compared to the other twists on this list, around the halfway point if I had to guess. But it's the closest thing to a big twist that I could point to here. The other layer of it is that it's not just time travel, but across multiple dimensions, but this doesn't really add much that the initial reveal didn't have. This game is a collaboration with Dead by Daylight, which I have never even touched, so there's probably some lore there that I just don't understand, but if one side of a collaboration can't understand something without having played the other, I take that as a problem. Number 4. The Hackett family are werewolves. The Quarry. In The Quarry, we eventually learn that the Hackett family are all cursed to transform into werewolves every full moon. And putting my thoughts on the design of said werewolves aside, much like The Devil in Me, this feels like a pretty straightforward twist that I don't even think was meant to be all that shocking. Somewhat like that twist as well, we don't spend much time with the members of the Hackett family before this twist is revealed. Most of what we know about them comes through secondhand accounts, mainly from Ryan about how close he is with them and how good they are, which isn't really as strong as letting us actually see this for ourselves. But it's still leagues above the aforementioned Dumet reveal. So, all in all, this twist is just fine. Maybe a little underwhelming, but not particularly offensive either. Number 3. Manchurian gold is a hallucinogen. Man of Medan. Okay, I won't lie. I did not expect this twist to end up this high on the list, especially since a lot of people consider Man of Medan to be the worst of these games. And that is not an undeserved opinion. But remember, we aren't ranking the games here. And despite being number 3 on the list, this is the twist that I'm the most, neutral on. Addressing the elephant in the room, yeah, this twist is really obvious. But I don't know how much that actually bothered me personally. It made enough sense, and it didn't cheapen the experience like Little Hope's twist, because your actions still matter. They still affect things that actually happen in the story's world. If you get someone killed, a real person is dead. I also do like how the hallucinations are personalized and give us some insight into the characters. It's not much, mind you, but, it's something. The worst thing I can say about this twist is that it's predictable, honestly, which is a less egregious offense in my eyes than the problems with the twists below it in my ranking. Number 2. The temple is on top of an alien spaceship. House of Ashes. Alright, now we're getting into the twists I actually actively like. And you're gonna notice something in common with these top 2, but I'll touch on that more during number 1. The threat in House of Ashes is initially presented as a supernatural ancient curse with vampiric demons. But near the end of the game, the characters encounter a spaceship and learn that the mysterious infection that's been terrorizing them the whole time is not actually a curse, but an alien parasite. This is such a cool idea to me, and the way that it's presented in the game is both surprising and pretty effective. It slightly recontextualizes what we've seen so far, while presenting the new possibility that this isn't a supernatural threat, it's a physical one, and that fact completely changes the way it can be dealt with. It's a pretty solid revelation all around. Nice job, Supermassive Games. Number 1. There are 2 threats on the mountain. Until Dawn. Yeah, I know. Until Dawn is at number 1, how predictable. But this game is highly regarded for a reason, so let's talk about the twist. Throughout the game, we are led to believe that the threat on the mountain targeting the main characters is a masked killer referred to as the Psycho. And at first, the big twist of the game seems to be his identity, which turns out to be Josh. He does it as a prank, as a form of revenge for the one the group pulled that indirectly led to the death of his sisters, Beth and Hannah. But this doesn't line up with everything, because Jessica has gone missing and Josh claims that he had nothing to do with it. That's when the true horror of the game is revealed. There's another threat on the mountain, the Wendigo, one of whom even turns out to be Hannah. This is what I was talking about when I said that there was a similarity between this twist and the one from House of Ashes. The idea that there is a threat, but it's actually a different kind than initially presented. And this reveal changes how the threat is perceived and how it can be dealt with. What elevates this one over House of Ashes, though, is that the twist is also directly connected to the interpersonal relationships of the main characters, whom we have actually seen, interacted with, and spent time with. It just makes it so much more effective, in addition to everything I've praised about it thus far. So, while my putting Until Dawn at number 1 may not have been a twist, it doesn't change the fact that this game's one is still the best. And that's my list. I had so much fun making this, even if I didn't get as many videos out this month as I wanted to. But also, you should totally check out the horror game that I made for a game jam because it's really cool and we all worked really hard on it. It's got mutants, some mystery, and it's post-apocalyptic. What more could you want? Regardless, thank you so much for watching, and if you've played these games, let me know what you think about their twists in the comments. Happy Halloween, and I'll see you all in November. I've got something pretty fun planned, so stay tuned and have a great day.